To look at this headline. It says, Seattle police can't find enough staff for patrol, city and media silent. Jason Rantz wrote that, and he joins me now. Update us, please, on Seattle. How many police officers are they short?
Well, in reality, they're short about 500 to 600 officers. But as a result of this vaccine mandate, they took a department that had already lost 335 since last year, and now we're a little over 100 cops who've been placed on this unavailable list as they're waiting to see whether or not their accommodation request rejections will be overturned. But what this has caused is that every single shift in every single precinct in Seattle is borrowing officers from non-patrol units so that they can have enough cops to respond to 911 calls. And I'll give you a perfect example of how dire this is. The third watch in the West Precinct. This oversees downtown Seattle and one neighborhood that has the most shootings and stabbings and homelessness. They're short-staffed the entire month of November as of right now. And the consequences is you're pulling detectives and police and domestic violence unit or community outreach to go ahead and patrol, which means they're not doing their normal job. So that detective who was working on a case to try to solve a murder, well, that criminal is still out there because that detective is being pulled. That's the problem.
Isn't anybody in authority in Seattle talking about backing away from this mandate that the cops have to get the jab? Surely you could back away from it if you've got this chronic shortage.
Yeah, they could back away from it, but not a single politician has said anything. They are not commenting on this. They are pretending that it doesn't exist. And unfortunately, we have a media that is equal parts disinterested in this story and just ignorant to how staffing at the Seattle Police Department works. But here's the worst part of this. Tuesday's election could see the candidate who supported the defunding of the police become mayor, two police abolitionists, one of which could get onto the council, and the other is the Seattle city attorney who vows not to prosecute most misdemeanor crimes. So we are definitely trending in the wrong direction in this city unless the voters wake up on Tuesday.
What's your guess? Will the voters wake up? You don't think so, do you? I'm reading between the lines of what you're saying. You think these folks are going to take over?
I think it's going to be a little bit of a mixed bag. I think you're going to get the police abolitionists on the council. I'm most worried about the Seattle City Attorney's race, mostly because there's about 60%, according to the polls, that have not really made up their minds on who to vote for, which to me tells me that they're not actually paying attention. Because you can't see a police abolitionist candidate and say, I don't know how I'm going to vote. You either like it or you don't. So at the end of the day, I think it might be the activists who end up creating this next council and this next mayor and city attorney. And that's the problem.
Yes, it is. All right, two quick stories for you. Low-income residents in Seattle could receive up to $3,000. That's money taken from COVID relief payments and given to them as a form of income support. Los Angeles is starting a guaranteed income program. Families can collect $1,000 a month there. With all this free money, Jason, why should people go back to work?
Well, that's exactly it. They don't necessarily want these folks to go back to work. There's no strings attached, generally speaking, to the dollars that we're talking about. It includes people living in this country illegally. And on the one hand, you've got some politicians who are basically saying, well, COVID put these people out of work, so we have to help them. Well, with respect, your COVID policies put them out of work. And right now, you are continuing this trend. You have moratoriums on evictions, which means people aren't paying their rent. And so they don't really have the incentive to get a job. We have here in Seattle, for example, in Washington State, we saw new jobs crumble 47% month over month. And at a time where you've got a bunch of people saying, actually, we do need people to start signing up for these seasonal work. Amazon is hiring a lot of folks ahead of the holidays. A lot of the retail is doing the same thing, but they're not able to find anyone because we're giving this cash to people. You have to incentivize people to do something. When you just decide you're going to give money, no strings attached, well, guess what? They have no incentive. And this is not I'm not a genius to have to come up with that. That is basic functions of human beings. You give me guaranteed income that keeps me comfortable. Well, what, for a lot of people, what is it then that they need to do in order to advance their lifestyle? Well, nothing, because you've done it for them.
I just can't work out why Seattle allows itself to get into this situation. But it seems they're spiraling
It's run by
down.
ideologues.
Run by who?
ideologues. I mean, these are people who are blinded by their political beliefs, and they're not even paying attention, I think, to the unintended consequences. Some of them are. This isn't intended.
I just don't understand how come they've got so many people prepared to vote for that kind of chaos. We'll have to revisit this argument at a later date. Jason Rantz, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks very much, man.
Thanks, Stuart.
Indiana